All right, this is video number 2 for minerals. It's going to really cover a little bit of the intro for minerals and, of course, calcium. Why are minerals essential? Well, they are essential, right? These are inorganic things that you physically can't create. You can't make iron from scratch. You can't make calcium from scratch. And unlike vitamins, they are used structurally. Now, bone is really a protein matrix in which you stick calcium and phosphorus. But that doesn't mean you don't use it for structure. Your bone does have a structure. It has an inside structure, an outside structure. Your teeth have a kind of a crystalline structure. So you definitely need it for building. A lot of our chemistry is done using minerals, iron, copper. It can, that's used in a lot of enzymes to actually make where the enzyme works on putting two things together or splitting something apart uses minerals. Often enzymes have multiple binding sites for minerals. So the more minerals that are present, the more active the enzyme can work. That's same thing for vitamins. That's why when you're deficient in a mineral or a vitamin, enzyme activity can still function in the body, but it may function at a slower rate, right? Making energy, that is heavily involved using minerals, again, to do some of the insane chemistry. Your pH, you're keeping fluid in the blood versus keeping fluid in your tissues. That's a balance of they call that water balance. And typically that's like an electrolyte. Electrolytes, by the way, are minerals. When you put the mineral in pure water, the water will conduct electricity. When you put a mineral in pure water, the water conducts electricity. By definition, that is an electrolyte. If I can get this to work. And here's another little breakdown of their functions. We're going to get into this in more detail. And some of these don't apply to us, so I don't want to get into all the nitty gritty. Let's see. Here we go. So I'm going to skip the top and look at the bottom. We do get some minerals from water. It depends on the type of water you have. If you live in the Sac Valley and you're taking this class in Sacramento, you probably do have hard water. Hard water, the biggest contributor to hard water is really calcium and sulfur. Calcium's the big one though, and that's why if you have hard water, you get a lot of deposits around your taps and in your drains. And what do they normally recommend that you clean with? Vinegar, like diluted vinegar in water, because that helps to break down those calcium deposits. Yeah, I'm just gonna leave it at that. I don't, there's some detail there that's really not important. We're gonna get into it. This is the same thing for vitamins. There's no difference, right? There's a range of safe, there's a deficiency, and there's a toxicity. Every vitamin and mineral is different. Some have more easily toxicity than others. I can tell you, zinc itself is a safe mineral, but taking in too much has effects that can be considered dangerous to the body. Is the actual mineral toxic? No. Iron's kind of different. Iron itself can be toxic to the body. It can cause issues when you take in large doses, typically through supplements. So it really does depend on the mineral. And then what is that toxicity? Is it affecting enzyme activity, or the mineral itself is toxic? Iron, let's say iron versus zinc, or iron versus calcium. And so we start with calcium. This is the video really for calcium. We know that most of you think calcium is important for bone health, and it is important for bone health. But if you ask me what is the most important thing minute to minute that's using calcium, it's your nerves and your muscles. The way that they contract and relax your muscles, the way that you send a signal from your brain to all of your body via your nerves, those systems involve calcium. And so we like to keep calcium in the blood tightly regulated. That's vitamin D's job, if you recall, right? So that's one function. Maintaining a bone density is another function. Having strong bones so you can move your body around, you can fall, you can take blows. The rib cage protects your organs. Absolutely, that's true. It's also involved in immunity. Calcium's also involved in blood clotting. So bones get all the reputation, but calcium's a very important mineral. And when you talk about sources, let me move ahead on this. Here we go, right? So there's my nerve impulse, there's my muscle contraction, there's my blood clotting. Metabolism's a weird one. You're really not going to affect your cellular metabolism because the body would not allow calcium to get low enough for that to happen. You would just literally steal the steal the calcium from your bones, sadly. So I like this chart. And the reason why I like this chart is we look at the dairy. So here's my milk. We say, oh, it's a great source of calcium. Well, so isn't soy milk. And by the way, you don't have to have milk, but if you're lactose intolerant, yogurt works for most people who are lactose intolerant. It has more calcium. Ricotta cheese, some of your cheeses have a lot of calcium. Some of your cereals will have the value of the calcium built into that cereal box from the milk, but realize there's other calcium that they've added to the cereal. So, if there's an apocalypse, the things you need to think about grabbing from the grocery store shelf is whole grain cereal or like Total. It's got all the vitamins and minerals you need. It's got a ton of fiber, and it's got stuff added to it that really it shouldn't be there, right? Like B12 and extra vitamins and minerals. But it's a great survival food because it has a long shelf life. Now, I'm going to get into the kale because it doesn't look like kale has a lot of. Oh, I thought leafy greens had a lot of calcium. They don't have a lot of calcium. It's fair to say that dairy has more calcium, but I have to put a comma there because it's calcium in the cup. So a cup of milk may have a certain amount of calcium, let's say 400 milligrams, but only 30% of the calcium in the cup is getting into your body. Aha. The leafy greens, and this is not showing up as well on my screen, there it is. The leafy greens have less calcium. Let me move my head, my floating head. But more of the calcium gets in the body. That's the key. A lot of the world is lactose intolerant. They're not consuming cow's milk. They're getting their calcium from lesser sources, which provide more to the body, right? So it's very interesting. These don't get the reputation as cow's milk does. But just because they have less doesn't mean less gets in. More gets in, even though there's less in the food. Okay, so what is the number one deficiency long-term of calcium? And that's what we worry about. If you're not consuming calcium on a daily basis, look, you're just going to steal it from your bones because you're going to maintain your blood calcium, right? Vitamin D is going to help you do that. It's osteoporosis. It's low bone density when you're older. Your bone density peaks at 35, male or female. So after 35, it's a decline all the way to the grave. And your goal is to have as much calcium at 35. So by the time you pass away from, let's say, happiness in your 80s, if we're lucky enough to have that happen, bone density won't be your issue, right? But if you're a woman, you're at greater risk. If you are older, of course, your risk would be greater. If you are Latino, Asian American, Latino American, Caucasian, you're at greater risk for osteoporosis. If you tend to be on the lighter side, you smoke, you've had early menopause, a hysterectomy, all excess alcohol consumption, all of those increase your risk for bone density loss. You know what really helps to maintain your bones? Eating calcium, getting enough vitamin D. And you got to start doing that now. If you're on the younger side, you're heading towards 35. That's about the peak period to get your bone as dense as possible. And yeah, I mean, look at this. This is awesome, right? So there's that peak, and then it's downhill all the way. We know during menopause, the loss is the greatest. So you, as a woman, you want to hit menopause as dense as you can be so that even if you do lose a lot of bone during menopause, you'll be on the other side in pretty good shape. And that's it for calcium. Great, I got through it. Toxicity. So toxicity of calcium typically would be from supplements, and taking too much calcium can actually cause constipation. And if kidney stones are in the family, so they run in the family, like vitamin C, you shouldn't be taking heavy doses of calcium supplements because they can help you precipitate kidney stones in your kidney. That's it.